As I let this first Niners loss of the 2023 season marinate, two words come to mind: sloppy and unacceptable. That's really what that performance was on Sunday for the San Francisco 49ers. So coming up on today's show, we continue to dissect the Niners' loss to the Cleveland Browns, what it means moving forward, and what went wrong. First, though, I want to thank all of the faithful for your support. Our watch party against Cleveland garnered 147,000 views. We picked up nearly 2,000 new subscribers, and we continue to get on that pursuit of 100,000 subs. With that silver plaque coming from YouTube once we get there, we are less than 5,000 people away from reaching that milestone. If you want Niners shows every single day with opinions, but also analysis, hit that subscribe button right now. So that first word, unacceptable, sloppy, those are the two words, as I mentioned, off the rip. And first, you talk about why this loss was unacceptable, and then we'll get into the nuances of this defeat for San Francisco at the hands of the Cleveland Browns. Number one, the offense was inept. So inept that it was arguably the worst game under head coach Kyle Shanahan since he became the head coach in 2017. The 215 yards of total offense, the least amount of yards under Shanahan since he was hired back in 2017. For Brock Purdy, he was on this unbelievable Cinderella run where his efficiency numbers were crazy. You look at some of those analytical charts, he's far in that right corner going into this game. He was due for a poor performance at some point. All quarterbacks have clunkers, and Brock Purdy had his against the Browns on Sunday. Jim Schwartz, the defensive coordinator for Cleveland, owns Kyle Shanahan. Shanahan, following this L, 1-9 against Jim Schwartz in his career for whatever reason. That wide nine and the Jim Schwartz scheme, as he's been a marquee defensive mind in this game for a really long time, matches up very well against what Shanahan likes to do and prioritizes on the offensive side of the football. What also bothers me and why it's unacceptable, the Niners got out-prepared. The Cleveland Browns did have a little bit of a rest advantage. They were coming off the bye week, but there's no excuse to come into that game working off the high of that Cowboys win and get out-prepared and out-coached. And then lastly, San Francisco lost to P.J. Walker, who wasn't even good enough to be Justin Fields' backup in Chicago. He's let loose. Cleveland scoops him up, and Dorian Thompson-Robinson was the starter a couple of weeks ago prior to the bye for Cleveland. He played so poorly, they had to go to P.J. Walker, and I think it was a play where Cleveland didn't want to damage the confidence of their young quarterback, so they went with Walker, who's been a really solid backup in this league, but with the number one defense, in my opinion, in the NFL, you can't lose this game to P.J. Walker. More ugliness from this game. Kyle Shanahan, now 1-9 all-time against Jim Schwartz, as I mentioned. San Francisco with those 215 yards of offense, the fewest under Shanahan, 3.9 yards per play. And this is really what blows my mind because San Francisco, in the 5 games previous to this one, they were an explosive offense, especially through the air with Brock Purdy, who was number one in yards per attempt. San Francisco, 3.6 yards per pass against Cleveland as well. So the Browns really able to shut down San Francisco in every single phase. Outside of the opening script is the opening drive that the Niners are able to game plan for and able to practice all throughout the week. It's about 15 plays usually. Not all coaches in the NFL have an opening script. Kyle Shanahan is one of the coaches that has it. Andy Reid does the same thing and has throughout his entire career with Philadelphia as well as Kansas City. But 49ers, on that opening drive, they went 84 yards on 5 plays. They were all runs except for the shovel pass from Brock Purdy to Christian McCaffrey. After the Niners on the first drive of the game went 84 yards and scored that touchdown, they had 131 yards the rest of the game. That's crazy given how explosive, how dominant this Niners offense was. And you look at the numbers from what San Francisco did weeks 1 through 5 and what they accomplished against the Cleveland Browns. Going into that matchup in week 6, San Francisco was averaging the second most points per game, third most yards. They were 5th in third down percentage, 4th in red zone percentage, and 2 in touchdowns per game at 4. against Cleveland. Points per game down from 33 to 17. Yards down from 402 to 215. Third down, San Francisco went just 3 of 12. They were 2 of 3 in the red zone, but one of those gift-wrapped on the Jordan Mason touchdown run after the Diamador Lenore interception of P.J. Walker. Another thing, Niners intercepted P.J. Walker twice, and they still couldn't really capitalize on getting a victory here. And then their touchdowns cut in half as well from 4 to 2. So that's pretty telling, and it's a good illustration of how much San Francisco struggled in that game against Cleveland. As part of this conversation, Brock Purdy was not good. His shakiest, most erratic, least efficient, and least accurate game as a pro. You go back and watch this game, he missed multiple throws. I give him credit for still putting the Niners in a position late, driving them down the field against this really good defense. A Browns defense not enough people are giving Cleveland credit for because they're very, very good, and they've caused fits for a lot of quarterbacks this year. But outside of that opening drive and then that last drive, Purdy was not good. 12 of 27, struggled to throw a slick and wet football. Yesterday was the first time where we really saw his lack of bazooka arm strength like Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen has really bite him, because it looked as though he could not drive the ball in the rain and in the wind. He only throws for 125 yards. He was under 100 for the game prior to that last drive. A touchdown and a pick, first interception of the year, and yards per completion, just 4.6. That right there is not good enough. Am I overly concerned about Brock Purdy moving forward? I'm not. I think that with all the weapons on this team, and also he was playing yesterday without a couple of marquee weapons, and Trent Williams was banged up after he got injured, still came back, but wasn't the same guy, combined with the fact that you have Kyle Shanahan calling the plays, the Niners are going to get on track. I'm not worried about them peaking too early. Did they have a letdown game against Dallas? Yes. Did I make the argument that no great teams have a letdown? Yes, but it was a weird week in the NFL yesterday, and the Niners fell victim to that as well. So with that, we pop up today's poll question, and I want to hear from you in the comment section here. This is the pinned comment for today's show. Who's to blame? Is it Kyle Shanahan, Brock Purdy, or Jake Moody, who we're about to talk about? You let me know down in the chat. If you want to go to a Niner game this year, you like going to any type of sporting event, Major League Baseball, college basketball, NBA season coming up around the corner, NHL, or you just like going to a comedy show or a concert like I do outside of sports, Game Time is the best ticketing app. Here's why. Last-minute tickets and flash deals. You can go to games, concerts, and more. It's an easy-to-use app. You can see the view from your seats for the price point of that seat, and you're guaranteed to get the lowest price using this app. The Niners have a couple of really good games coming up. You can go to a road game, you can go to a home game, and as you can see with the photos here, you see where you'll be sitting and the price point there. And if you want $20 off, the faithful, we have you covered. We did a raffle giveaway during our Sunday watch party. If you downloaded the app and you sent me this screenshot right here where you get $20 off, we gave $50 away to one of our loyal viewers. You support the show, that's great. You also get to save money, which is great for you as well. We'll put this information down in the comment section and in the description of this video. We continue to move on. More takeaways from this loss against the Cleveland Browns. Is Jake Moody a problem? Up until last week, this past week, he was not a problem, but missed the game winner from 41, missed earlier from 54 yards out, and it was a rough day for the Jake Moody family. This is a guy who grew up in Michigan. He had a lot of family members go to Cleveland Browns Stadium in Cleveland. Here he was before the game with the Moody clan. That's a lot of family members and friends there, and their day was spoiled with Jake Moody missing an inexcusable kick. Now, Jake Moody isn't the lone reason why San Francisco is now 5-1, suffering this loss against the Cleveland Browns. He's a big reason, though, why the Niners lost. And you can't push a 41-yard field goal with an opportunity to go to 6-0 after Brock Purdy drove the Niners right down the field against one of the best defenses in football and squander that opportunity. He was perfect going into week 6. Hopefully this is just one bad game. I don't expect that San Francisco is going to make a move at kicker right now, but if struggles continue, especially with a rookie, and a rookie costs you games when you're going all in to win a Super Bowl, you can't have Jake Moody as your kicker late in the year, pressure-packed environment, in the playoffs if he continues to miss some of these big kicks, because that then costs you your season potentially, and you can't afford that to happen. I don't care if he was a third-round pick. And the name that everybody continues to talk about, and the name that we've talked about, is Robbie Gould. We talked about him in the lead-up to the season because Jake Moody had a really rocky preseason. Missed a couple of kicks, got iced by Josh McDaniels against the Raiders, again by Sean Payton, and he wasn't good, right? Should the 49ers call Robbie Gould? A lot of people have asked me about this. They can't afford to have a rookie kicker cost them, and Robbie Gould would not have missed that kick. Momentum on your side. Awful day for your football team. But despite turning it over, committing all those penalties, 12 for more than 100 yards, not playing your A game, Brock Purdy, Kyle Shanahan struggling against Jim Schwartz, you still had an opportunity to win that football game. Jake Moody pushes that right, and 41 yards is a chip shot. Robbie Gould, on the other hand, he's clutch. Clutch is his middle name. He's good as gold, to use a Niner reference here. 29 for 29 in his playoff career for the Bears and the 49ers. He's available right now. He has said that he wants to play, and if Jake Moody continues to struggle, they might give Robbie Gould a call. What else I didn't like? Uncharacteristic sloppy play from San Francisco and some of their top players. 4 drops combined from Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel. And during the watch party, we talked about those Ayuk drops. They cannot happen. He has all the potential to be a top 10 wide receiver in this league. All year, he's been one of the highest graded wide receivers in the NFL. He's been tremendous. Against the Browns, bad game. Your big players have to step up in some of these tense moments. Ayuk didn't, and Deebo, before he got injured, didn't either. Also, what's unacceptable, those aforementioned 12 penalties for more than 100 yards. Those penalties, unacceptable for this team with Super Bowl aspirations. And I'll tell you what, another concerning trend, the Niners last year, the Niners this year, continue to commit a lot of penalties on the road. Another point I want to talk about, where the hell was George Kittle? George Kittle, a week after having a hat trick against the Dallas Cowboys, what's up with this game plan? 1 reception, 1 yard on 1 target? How does that occur after how he carved up Dallas last week? What's a way for Brock Purdy to settle in when he's struggling to throw the football? Seam ball, out route, route down the numbers, a little post route, little corner route, and Kyle Shanahan didn't dial up any of those plays. And this is without Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel. So you're without a couple of your top options, and without a couple of your top options, I think it's inexcusable for George Kittle to only have 1 catch for 1 yard on 1 target. Got to get him involved more. We saw that he's still in his prime against the Dallas Cowboys. I also want to see more from Jordan Mason and more of him. I want to see Kyle Shanahan use him more in this offensive system. And I think that Jordan Mason right now should be RB2 behind Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey's getting beat up. Christian McCaffrey is getting used way too much. And I fear that when the Niners are in the thick of a playoff race or in the playoffs, Christian McCaffrey will have been used so much up until that point, he'll either be injured, banged up, not the same player, without the same juice. And the Niners have to have the long view here. This has to be the long play. That's why I'm not overly concerned about this loss. It's good to get this loss out of the way. You flush it, you move on, and you get better from it. But you have to be able to keep some of your marquee players healthy late in the year. And if you keep using Christian McCaffrey like this, we've seen the last 2 weeks, he's been banged up. Now he has that oblique. Jordan Mason is a quality running back. He's shown that every time he's gotten ample touches at this level. And I think right now, he's better than Elijah Mitchell because Elijah Mitchell doesn't look like the same dude. He looks slow, indecisive, and he's always injured. I understand that the officiating was awful too. And a lot of people were talking about that. I was talking about that during our watch party as well. Not just for the Niners game was the officiating a joke across the NFL. The officiating was horrendous. That call on Deshaun Gibson, bad. That extended the game. That gave the Browns an opportunity to win it, and it was a textbook hit from Deshaun Gibson. The receiver's up in the air. He's trying to dislodge the football. He goes a little bit low, and upon replay, it clearly was not a dirty hit. And then Charvarius Mooney-Ward, that call on Amari Cooper, also awful on that fourth down. And then the intentional grounding call on P.J. Walker. I was arguing a little bit with Matthew Peterson, host of the Browns Report. He said, yeah, that's clearly an intentional grounding. I just don't see how P.J. Walker took the snap. He looked left. And then as soon as he looked right, he's getting hit. He didn't even have opportunities to look to the right side to even throw that football. And you can see from that back angle, his arm gets hit, ball starts to come out. And just because his arm is moving forward on a natural movement when you're running, trying to escape two pass rushers, the ball comes out, doesn't mean that that's an intentional grounding. If anything, if the officials see a quarterback throw in an area in which there is absolutely nobody close and it looks something like a fumble, the defense should get the ball. And if San Francisco gets the ball, they're knocking on the doorstep with opportunities to get points on the board before halftime to maybe swing the momentum in their favor on a day in which the momentum continued to favor the Cleveland Browns. At the end of the day, the 49ers missed Dre Greenlaw. They were missing Deebo Samuel. They missed Christian McCaffrey, as well as Trent Williams. They missed 2 field goals. They committed 12 penalties for more than 100 yards. They did not have a rest advantage, and they still almost won against one of the top defenses in the NFL. So those are reasons for optimism to end the show here today. So are you concerned about this Niners loss? White for yes, and for no. Another poll question for the faithful. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for all of your support.